2 consecutive trophyless seasons.
This could be the first time in several years that Real Madrid do not win a trophy.
Oh, big time. I mean, honestly, it's over.
It's over.
It really is over.
They've given up any chance of winning the league title, and they've done it with a whimper. It's most disappointing for Real Madrid fans because it's been a very disappointing season.
Carlo Ancelotti, the man who lifted the Champions League trophy 3 times with Real Madrid, had officially said goodbye.
Io tampoco puedo olvidar cada día que he pasado aquí. E termino con alla Madrid e nada más, os quiero mucho. Ciao.
Xabi Alonso, the undefeated Bundesliga champion, the manager Real Madrid had pursued for years, was also thrown out after just 233 days.
Breaking news out of La Liga, where Real Madrid has agreed to mutually part ways with first-team coach Xabi Alonso.
Álvaro Arbeloa, the interim manager. 7 defeats in 24 matches, eliminated from the Copa del Rey by a second division side.
For the second time and first since 94-95, Real Madrid eliminated by lower league opposition for the first time since the 2021 season. This is a disaster for Real Madrid.
The tragedy finally exploded into the open. Álvaro Arbeloa's weak compromises transformed the club into an illegal boxing ring with no rules.
Rudiger! They are saying he slapped out of Alvaro Carreras a few months ago.
So this is genuinely crazy. Real Madrid is at the point where 2 of their best midfielders this season are fighting with each other, and Fede Valverde left the training ground in a wheelchair.
Everyone had to fall before a Real Madrid consumed by sky-high egos. What is happening right now is far more than just a footballing crisis. What we are witnessing is an entire mighty empire collapsing from deep within itself.
No jugamos una puta mierda. Somos un puto desastre y el entrenador un puto inútil.
Nos llevan arrastrando esta banda, estos solo quieren dinero. Vinicius, su puta madre, todos en busca del dinero.
Como yo está el Madrid, como yo, así.
No hacen nada, ni un delantero, no hay nadie para rematar. Enrique ha salido 1 minuto rematando, no hay nadie.
Desastre.
¿Y Xabi Alonso?
Se queda, Vinicius fuera.
And standing in the eye of this storm of decline, Florentino Perez has only one final card left to play.
José Mourinho back to Real Madrid. Here we go, the deal is done. José Mourinho always wanted to go back to Real Madrid. Now the agreement between the Special One and Real Madrid is done and closed.
The Special One has finally returned to the Bernabéu. Many believe he is nothing more than a washed-up old man, with an ego just as massive as Real Madrid's superstars, that he will bring nothing but even more toxicity into the dressing room.
I mean, I'm sorry, how is José Mourinho, the master of chaos, going to sort out the Real Madrid dressing room? I mean, the guy hasn't been at a top team for a number of years now. I mean, he was seen as, old-fashioned, a dinosaur busted flush. And you really think that Mbappé, Vinny Jr. and other players are going to suddenly listen to him? Come on, Tim.
But the other half believe Jose is the only man on this planet crazy enough and strong enough to control the gigantic egos of Galacticos 3.0. So what will truly happen to Real Madrid? The ultimate solution, or history repeating itself once again?
Look how disastrous they've been this season. He will pick them up. They will have a better season next year than they've certainly had this year. They need some surgery there, and he's the man to go in there and do the work.
But this is a very different Real Madrid side. It's got so many issues. We know Mourinho did that fairly well to a point in his first 2 seasons at Real Madrid when he won La Liga. Can he still do that in the same way with today's players? I think that is going to be the big question.
Before criticising anything, we need to remember who he really is. An unknown Porto side rising to the top of Europe in 2004 under the command of a young king. 2 years of Premier League domination, breaking every rule with Chelsea. A historic treble driven straight into the heart of their greatest rivals. Serie A, Coppa Italia, Champions League, 1 season, 1 legend, and 1 man daring to challenge the entire world.
José Mourinho clearly has got his own final whistle. History for Inter Milan. The first Italian treble winners. Maybe the last act of José Mourinho's time as Inter manager. What a way to go. Madrid belongs to Mourinho tonight and probably for some time to come. He's made himself at home in the Bernabéu this evening.
They did not call him the special one for nothing. He defined himself from the very first day at Chelsea and spent the next 20 years proving one thing. In the world of football, there is only one José Mourinho.
I have to say this. We have top players. And I'm sorry, I'm a bit arrogant. We have a top manager. Again, please don't call me arrogant, because what I'm saying is true. I'm European champion, so I'm not one of the bottle. I think I'm a special one.
Madrid welcomed him for one mission only: destroy the enemy's dynasty. And in the summer of 2012, Real Madrid turned the impossible into history. They stormed through Spain with devastating lightning-fast counter-attacking football, a record-breaking 100 points, 121 goals tearing apart every defence, and 32 victories. The 9-point gap over Barcelona was more than just numbers. It was a brutal declaration that the reign of the Special One had officially been established in the capital of Spain.
In Real Madrid, I had my best team in direct counter-attack, because I had young Di Maria, young Ronaldo, young Higuain, and young Benzema. We killed everybody in offensive transition.
The players are strung across there. It's Arbala who wins the head of that. Trouble on the break, though, Rob. Look at this. Little from Marcelo has the pace. He's certainly got the confidence to take everybody on. Kaka. There's 3 queuing up at the far post. Kaka gets it across there. Oh, what a goal! What a goal! Ends him. Hassan Dion. Marcel. Threads it beautifully through. Cristiano Ronaldo! Again!
Stay home, it's not easy job, and we do it. And to be 9 points ahead of Barcelona, I think it's a lot of points. So I think the cycle, of course, changed, and I hope that still for many, many years. Because we know Barcelona is a great team, it's a difficult team, but we are a good team too, and we show this year that we are better than them in the moment. And to carry on my career with Mourinho now, it's just a great thing for me, to improve myself all the time, to still learn. It's a great, I don't wish more nothing than that, because it's great to work with him, because in the moment he's number one.
Pep Guardiola and the greatest Barcelona side in history were crushed by a 9-point margin. It was the harshest humiliation Mourinho ever delivered to Catalonia. But none of those insane records could erase one painful truth. He left Madrid branded as a failure. Why? Because Mourinho's real war was never fought within 90 minutes on the pitch. Look at the first man dragged to the execution block, Iker Casillas, a legendary goalkeeper, the supreme captain, the man who devoted his entire youth to the white shirt since the age of 9, an untouchable symbol of the Santiago Bernabéu. And Mourinho? He mercilessly erased him from the lineup, threw that icon onto the bench in broad daylight, and replaced him with Diego Lopez. He believed Casillas was a traitor, leaking dressing room secrets to his journalist girlfriend Sarah Carbonero. A dangerous network of relationships right in the heart of digital-era Madrid. The 90-minute matches were over. What remained was a war for power. A dynasty collapsing from within because of paranoia and distrust.
Sou Pellegrini, campeonato nada a dizer. Esse Barcelona do Guardiola foi talvez na altura.
Para mim, Diego Lopez.
For me, I like Diego Lopez better than Casillas as a goalkeeper. It's as simple as that. I don't have any personal problem. It's not a decision adopted with the aim of hurting anybody. I just like him better. I like a goalkeeper who uses his feet well. I like a keeper who goes out in the middle. I like a keeper who dominates the airspace and who is fantastic in goal and makes fantastic stops. I just like a different profile of goalkeeper.
Iker es un fenómeno entre los palos. As separadas fantásticas entre los palos. A mí me gusta más otro perfil de portero.
But the purge of Casillas was only the opening act of a rebellion led by superstar egos. Soon after, Cristiano Ronaldo, the greatest football icon on the planet, turned his 200-goal milestone into a declaration of hatred, roaring curses in Portuguese, directing them straight toward the silhouette of his manager on the touchline. He had just scored his 200th goal for the club he loved, yet the first reaction of the superstar was not celebration. It was an eruption of fury aimed at the man leading the team.
Mira el banquillo por primera vez. Mira dónde está su familia. Vuelve a mirar al banquillo, segunda mirada. tercera mirada del banquillo, pasa por delante del banquillo, Rufaría le dice algo a Mourinho.
Everything spiraled completely out of control when Sergio Ramos decided to drag the rebellion into the spotlight in the most outrageous way imaginable. During a heated La Liga clash, the rebellious vice-captain wore Mesut Ozil's number 10 shirt underneath his jersey, then deliberately pulled his shirt open in front of the television cameras. A fearless act of defiance, a direct humiliation aimed at Mourinho's ego in front of 80,000 fans inside the Holy Cathedral of Madrid. One player using the honour of an isolated teammate to publicly overthrow the supreme manager live on television. This was no longer football. This was a symbolic moment, the exact instant a billion-dollar sporting empire exploded from inside its own dressing room.
During a game between Real Madrid and Deportivo, Ozil was replaced at halftime by Mourinho, who criticized him. "I want you to tackle like a man. You're not Zidane." The fight forced Sergio Ramos to support his teammate and good friend in an unexpected way. The defender wore Ozil's jersey under his own to reveal it in case he scored a goal. But he didn't even need to score because it was honestly really easy to see his teammate's name under his own.
This was no longer about football management or the art of man management anymore. This was total war launched by José Mourinho against the entire world, from rivals to colleagues to even the stars inside his own dressing room. And when a manager chooses to burn every bridge around him, the price is always a catastrophic collapse. And the bitter ending finally arrived in the 2012-13 season as an inevitable consequence. On the domestic front, Real Madrid completely surrendered the title race, allowing Barcelona to finish 15 humiliating points ahead in the league table. On the European stage, the curse of a third consecutive Champions League semi-final elimination once again crushed the dream of La Decima for the Madridistas. But the final straw, the peak of the pain, was the devastating defeat against City rivals Atletico Madrid in the Copa del Rey final itself. A completely trophyless season that brought an end to the chaotic reign of the Special One.
This is the worst season of my career, with a title that is not enough for me, and also is not enough to the clubs such as Real Madrid, and that is why it is a bad season.
That was the story back in 2013, when the Real Madrid dressing room was filled with giant personalities like Iker Casillas, Sergio Ramos and Cristiano Ronaldo. But now, this is 2026, and he is preparing to walk into an entirely different dressing room, one containing Kylian Mbappé and Vinicius Jr. This season for Real Madrid was not merely a failure in terms of results, it was a brutal collapse from within. Everything initially began like a dream when Xabi Alonso arrived at the Bernabéu, destroying the league with 13 wins in his first 14 matches to sit comfortably at the top of the table, even defeating arch-rivals Barcelona too, won at the Bernabéu in October. But right at the peak of that success, a leaked report from The Athletic delivered a fatal blow to the dressing room. A section of the squad completely lost faith in Alonso's methods. Worse still, they chose to rebel in the most disrespectful way imaginable, pretending to sleep during tactical meetings. Just look at how insane that reality is. Sleeping during tactical meetings. Multi-millionaire footballers deliberately sleeping.
This is the most shameless, the most disrespectful set of players I have ever seen play for Real Madrid. If you have not heard what they were doing to Xabi Alonso while he was at the club, you have to, and I will tell you right now. Some players at the club were openly disrespecting Xabi Alonso, for example, whispering between themselves while he was speaking, pretending to fall asleep while he was trying to explain tactics. This really bothered Xabi Alonso, and this is why the rumors came up that he was the one who chose to leave Real Madrid rather than him getting sacked. And now I go back, and this actually makes sense when Xabi Alonso yelled at the players in November and said, "I didn't know I came here to coach little children because they showed low effort, scold and whispering between obviously the instructions as I mentioned." And this is exactly why we saw a different manager from the manager that managed in Bayern Leverkusen, because these players think they're too good to listen to some tactics.
The peak of the decay arrived in January 2026 during the humiliating Supercopa final defeat against Barcelona. A leaked clip on social media exposed everything. Kylian Mbappé casually turned his back and ignored Alonso while the manager was trying to encourage the squad to carry out the traditional handshake gesture of respect toward the opponents. The very next day, Alonso was officially sacked. Just 233 days. The end of a reign. Inside the dressing room, things were even worse as Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappé became trapped in a genuine Cold War over wages. The two biggest stars of the club, instead of moving in the same direction, were ruthlessly stepping on each other simply to compete over who deserved the bigger contract extension.
Still think there's big questions as to whether or not Vinny and Mbappe can play together.
They both want to shift, like you mentioned, they both want to shift to that left side. That hasn't worked. It didn't work last season for them to win multiple trophies.
You know he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not, of course.
They can't play together. I'm not convinced. In order to win the Champions League, I'm not convinced that they can play together. To be competitive in La Liga-ish, okay, right? But for the standard this club has, for me, I know that Papa Perez has his own agenda, and ultimately what he says goes.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the club, if you're going to build a club around him, they can't coexist for me.
In the past, Mourinho had to deal with resistance from Ronaldo, Casillas and Ramos, but at the very least, the massive egos of that generation still maintained a minimum level of respect toward managerial authority as something sacred. Mbappe and Vinicius in the 2026 generation, they are completely unafraid of managers. In fact, they already know exactly how to force a manager out of the club. They personally did it to Carlo Ancelotti, to Alonso, and even to Alvaro Arbeloa. That is why Mourinho's return to the Bernabéu is not about managing footballers anymore. He is walking into a dressing room carrying a ticking time bomb ready to explode. So why, out of all possible names, is José Mourinho the final card left for Real Madrid? The answer is very simple, because Florentino Perez no longer needs beautiful tactical diagrams drawn on a whiteboard. He needs a ruthless butcher of authority, someone brutal enough to walk into that gunpowder-filled room, stare directly into the eyes of both Mbappé and Vinicius Jr., and make them instantly sit up straight again.
It's about bringing in someone who is perceived to have taken Real Madrid into a more competitive era, but above all, it's about personality. It's about the perception of what he did in terms of taking on Barcelona. It's a perception of what he did in terms of being a public mouthpiece, and also a perception of what he was within the dressing room, having the authority. And so this is driven, as I say, by that sense of nostalgia. And of course, the thing about nostalgia is that some of the details, some of the awkwardness, some of the nastiness kind of gets forgotten with time. It gets lost in the mist of time, and people just hang on to the bit that they liked. And the other part of this, of course, is the crisis that Real Madrid have in the dressing room at the moment, which has been just extraordinary to watch everything unfold over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And of course, when you start looking around and start thinking, who do we bring in that has the force of personality, you come inevitably to Mourinho.
Forget the shallow surface-level analysis that most people repeat. To truly understand this gamble, you have to reverse the board and search for the escape route. The old version of Mourinho from 13 years ago, winning a title before leaving behind a destroyed battlefield, cannot be allowed to repeat itself. If this ending is truly going to rewrite destiny, Mourinho must possess 3 crucial weapons of survival. The first survival weapon. Under absolutely no circumstances can he declare war on the dressing room during his first year. José Mourinho's natural instinct has always been to establish a dictatorship, imposing absolute authority from the very first day he walks through the door. That formula brought him spectacular success at Chelsea in 2004 and later at Inter Milan in 2008. But at the Bernabéu in 2010, that same extreme ego eventually turned the dressing room against him, launching an all-out rebellion after just 18 months. The Real Madrid of 2026 does not need a hot-headed man obsessed with fighting the media every Tuesday night. The version Florentino Perez is desperately searching for is the Mourinho of Inter Milan in 2009. A mastermind capable of listening, building silent alliances, and operating behind the scenes to push his superstars toward greatness. The next crucial piece, he absolutely must solve the impossible equation of making Kylian Mbappé and Vinicius Jr. coexist. This is the exact puzzle that directly destroyed the managerial reigns of Carlo Ancelotti, Xabi Alonso, and Alvaro Arbeloa. But from another perspective, Mourinho is one of the greatest counter-attacking masterminds football has ever seen, and his arrival could actually become the best possible news for Real Madrid. A deep defensive block, combined with unleashing the raw speed of Mbappé and Vinicius in transition, would instantly transform Los Blancos into a horrifying nightmare for every defence in Europe. And finally, the ultimate objective: win quickly, win immediately, secure a trophy within the first 6 months at all costs. That could mean the Copa del Rey, or at the very least, a fiery, deep run in the Champions League. One of those 2 missions absolutely must be accomplished in the very first season. Because at the Bernabéu, if March arrives and the trophy cabinet is still completely empty, the storm will begin immediately. Media outrage, suffocating pressure from Florentino Perez, and suspicious looks from the dressing room itself will all crash down on him faster and more brutally than anyone can imagine.
To manage a club like Real Madrid, he really is, because I just think one man's in control. No matter how big that club is, he will control that dressing room. He'll get the best out of that group of individuals, because what he does is, Tom, he will go in there, he'll recognise who are the strong characters in here, who are the ones I can rely on, which ones do I need the club to get rid of, and he will identify that very quickly. Then he puts together a little cartel, and when he's not in sight, then players know how to control the dressing room. He's done it with JT, he's done it with Frank Lampard, Petr, Drogba. They controlled and policed the dressing room for him, but he had to put the foundations into them to let them know how he needs this club to be run, and that's exactly what he'll do now at Real Madrid.
The time that he was successful is different than the time now in terms of players, the mentality of the players, the way they think their lives and their football, the statistics goes in, and when we talk about Vinicius Junior and Kylian Mbappé, we know what we are talking about. They are excellent players, fantastic players in statistics, but in terms of sharing times, tracking back, we have an issue. He's been very good with all the team that he was dealing with before those time with Roma, Spurs, Fenerbahce and Benfica. But with all due respect with those clubs, they're not Chelsea, Real Madrid, for example, or Inter Milan. So it's maybe why he wasn't as successful. Maybe financially they didn't have the money for Jose to be successful. So I want to believe it's possible. I have question marks, of course, but I think it's going to be entertaining. For sure, it's going to be entertaining.
The Mourinho of 2026 is certainly no longer the Mourinho of 2010. Not because he has become worse, but because he has been forged and reshaped through too many battles. Tottenham Hotspur, as Roma, and especially Benfica, those pressure-filled environments refined him into a far calmer, more patient version compared to the arrogant man who once wanted to burn the entire world 16 years ago. But throughout the 13 years since leaving Madrid, his collection of major trophies has only added one more Premier League title, with Chelsea in 2015. And the Champions League, the sacred trophy that Real Madrid crave more obsessively than anything else on earth. Mourinho has not touched it again since that magical night in 2010.
My expectations for Jose, I need to see La Liga lifted in his first season. I also want one of the domestic cups as well. As far as the Champions League is concerned, we need to make the semifinals bare minimum, because we've been knocked out in the quarters over the last 2 seasons. We need to make the last 4, and then you never know what can happen.
But this is exactly why I cannot simply call this appointment a failure. Mourinho was not chosen because of tactical genius, nor because of a glamorous Champions League resume. He is here for one reason only. Nobody else on the planet can walk into that dressing room, face every player, including Mbappé, and command instant respect the moment they lock eyes with him. History has already proven it. Even massive personalities like Iker Casillas, Sergio Ramos, and Cristiano Ronaldo once resisted him. Yet in the end, they still fought with everything they had every time they stepped onto the pitch. Because nobody dared to give up or disrespect that man in front of 80,000 spectators. So the real question now is not whether Mourinho is talented enough. The true question is this: is he wise enough not to repeat the mistakes that destroyed him before? If the answer is yes, we may witness one of the greatest managerial comebacks in modern football history. But if the answer is no, Real Madrid will once again continue the saddest chapter of a great empire destroying itself with its own hands. And the answer: we will know everything within the next 9 months.
I am José Mourinho. I've coached the best clubs in the world. I've won the Italian, Portuguese, English and Spanish championships and the UEFA Champions League twice. I turn good players into great players and great teams into champions. There is just one more thing for me to accomplish.
73 million signings for Real Madrid, to get rid of their most expensive star from the club.
Now, you may be wondering what is going on with Kylian Mbappé and Real Madrid. The Madrid fans have launched a petition to get rid of the striker, which has now had more than 30 million signatories to explain the situation.
From a signing Real Madrid once dreamed of.
If Mbappe lands Madrid, Barcelona doesn't have to get ready. The world has to get ready. Man City needs to get ready. Bayern needs to get ready. Because Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe on the same team, there is no defense in the world that can clamp that. I don't care if you got Rodri and Ruben Diaz, you cannot clamp the speed of Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe on the counterattack. No team in the world can. It's impossible.
To a disappointment for the entire Bernabéu.
Yeah, the atmosphere wasn't good, Kay, let's be honest. There were whistles. The biggest whistles of the night, without question for me, were for Mbappé in the second half. Huge whistles for Mbappé. I think the loudest we've heard maybe for any player this season, a reflection, I think, of the frustration of the crowd with him in recent weeks.
41 goals in 41 matches, the leading scorer for Real Madrid, the deadliest goal machine in all of Europe.
Atención a Mbappé, solo Mbappé, el palo.
Bellingham to Vinicius Jr. He's going to have a run at Tar. Mbappe has had a burst past. Mbappe is in! And Mbappe scores!
But nobody wants to keep him at the club.
Why are Real Madrid fans so unhappy with Kylian Mbappé, especially considering the fact that he has scored 41 goals this season? This is a storm in a teacup. People are making Kylian a scapegoat for what's going wrong at Real Madrid.
Drama after drama. Every camera lens and every media outlet are focused on Mbappé.
Exclusivas vacaciones de Esther Expósito y Mbappé en Italia que traen polémica. La pareja ha pasado el puente de mayo en Cerdeña, disfrutando de lujosos restaurantes y a bordo de un yate, el cual nos ha dejado sus imágenes más románticas.
No he jugado porque el míster me ha dicho que para él soy el cuarto delantero de la plantilla, detrás de Mastontuono, Vini y Gonzalo. Yo estaba listo para ser titular, pero es su decisión. No puede estar enfadado con un míster. Siempre hay que respetar la opinión de un míster. Yo de trabajar duro el entreno, de trabajar duro en el partido para esperar a ser titular.
2 consecutive trophyless seasons, and the blame has been heavily placed on the French striker. So is he really Real Madrid's problem, or just a black sheep created by the media?
Why are they all scared of me? I am not a villain.
I know, sir. We will show them.
Before setting foot in the Bernabéu, Mbappé had already scored 329 goals for club and country, winning 17 trophies, and those were the numbers of a player who had not even turned 26 yet.
C'est déjà lui qui a provoqué le deuxième but parisien. Mbappé toujours. Oh, il a effacé Marcelo. Oh, quel but exceptionnel!
He made history as the first player to finish a League One season as both the top scorer and top assist provider, and he did not stop there. He went on to dominate the league's Golden Boot award for 6 consecutive years, an unprecedented streak unlike anything seen before. And remember, that was only the French chapter of his career.
Obliged. Just might. A superstar re-enlivened. A nation Mbappé. Thuram. Mbappé! Oh, wow! 97 seconds between Mbappe's penalty and his ferocious volley. Into the galaxy of greats!
Well, we build it as the Mbappé Messi show.
At the 2022 World Cup, the cathedral where Argentina and Lionel Messi ascended to glory, Mbappé sent shockwaves through football by scoring a hat-trick in the final, a feat unseen since Jeff Hurst in 1966. He ended that campaign with 8 goals and the prestigious Golden Boot, one of the greatest individual performances ever delivered, even in collective defeat. Let that reality sink in.
Super special from Kylian Mbappé. We already know he's already hit the mark. We already know he's one of the best in the world right now. But this feels like even another level for him, Luis. The fact that at this level, once again, he delivered. He did what he could for his team today.
Mbappé
I know he's not happy. He shouldn't be happy because ultimately France didn't win the World Cup. But like I said before, a tremendous individual performance. Take nothing away from his individual brilliance. Surely, of course, France will be back.
When he left PSG in 2024 to join Real Madrid on a free transfer without costing a single euro in transfer fees, Mbappé was already the greatest goalscorer in the history of the Parisian club, surpassing Edinson Cavani, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and every legend who had ever worn that shirt. And beyond that, he became the only player in football history to dominate the Golden Boot race in one of Europe's top 5 leagues for 7 consecutive seasons. 7 straight seasons. No interruptions. No decline in form.
And it has finally happened. It is officially official. Kylian Mbappé has signed with Real Madrid. They've even put out the famous Comunicado Oficial. That's how we know. Here's what he's had to say about it. A dream come true. So happy and proud to join the club of my dreams, Real Madrid. Nobody can understand how excited I am right now. Can't wait to see you, Madridistas. And thanks for your unbelievable support. A la Madrid.
That was the status of the man who arrived at Real Madrid. Not to test himself, not to prove anything. He arrived as one of the 2 or 3 best players on the planet, an undeniable fact. And yet now, in May 2026, he is being booed inside his own cathedral. He has been pushed down to 4th in the club's attacking hierarchy. So what the hell happened? Real Madrid's horrific week began with an internal incident on the training ground. Wednesday, early May 2026, Valdebebas, the headquarters of Real Madrid, Federico Valverde and Aurélien Tchouameni got into a heated argument during training. At first, it sounded normal clashes like that happen in every dressing room around the world. But the next day, when Valverde walked onto the pitch and flat out refused to shake Tchouameni's hand, the ticking time bomb officially detonated. Right in front of the entire squad during training, Valverde repeatedly pointed fingers at Tchouameni, accusing him of leaking details of their argument to the press, a relentless confrontation that spilled from the dressing room onto the pitch itself. Every attempt by teammates to stop it failed. The madness reached its peak when Tchouameni threw a thunderous punch straight at Valverde's head. Valverde collapsed, smashing his head against the table, blood everywhere, and when he left Valdebebas, Madrid's Iron Man had to leave in a wheelchair.
I mean, Real Madrid seem to have turned into the Fight Club. The players at the moment are holding a crisis meeting. Yesterday is that there was a physical confrontation between 2 Real Madrid players on the training pitch, between Fede Valverde and Aurélien Tchouameni. I mean, these are extraordinary events, especially in respect to the fact that they've got this big game against their rivals Barcelona on Sunday night. Now, they're not going to win the title. They're not going to win anything this season. They're playing for pride. Barcelona 11 points clear at the top of La Liga, and they just need a point to clinch the title. But things going from bad to worse at Real Madrid.
Florentino Perez immediately called an emergency crisis meeting, the result of the club's rapid internal investigation. Both players received a record €500,000 fine. Shortly afterward, Tchouameni posted on Instagram, "What happened in training this week is unacceptable. I say this thinking about the younger generation who look at us as role models. Frustration cannot justify everything. Incidents like this are completely unworthy of the values of Real Madrid. Look at the bigger picture. 2 teammates beat each other so badly that one ended up hospitalized. €500,000 fines handed to both sides. An official statement released from the highest level of the club. But ridiculously, all of that chaos was merely the background scenery, because Kylian Mbappé, the main character of this entire drama, had not even appeared on screen yet. He was in Sardinia, enjoying a vacation with his girlfriend.
Big picture is a dressing room that is out of control. And let's not forget, by the way, that Alvaro Arbeloa, the coach, was brought in January, midway through the season, to get the dressing room on board, to keep the players happy, to sort of steady the ship. And what we're seeing now, as the season is kind of unraveling for Real Madrid, is just the complete opposite.
Sardinia, a paradise on the Mediterranean coast. While his teammates in Madrid were tearing each other apart, sacrificing their own squad ahead of El Clasico, and helplessly watching Barcelona prepare to lift the La Liga trophy right inside Camp Nou, the club's highest-paid superstar was calmly enjoying the sea breeze beside one of Spain's most famous movie stars. And inevitably, that photo set Spanish social media on fire in less than an hour. Theoretically and contractually, he had done nothing wrong. In fact, manager Álvaro Arbeloa personally stepped in front of the media to confirm exactly that.
Mira, toda la planificación de los lesionados está supervisada y a cargo de los servicios médicos del Real Madrid, que es los que controlan cuándo tienen que ir a Valdebebas, cuándo no, y a partir de ahí, pues cada jugador en su tiempo libre hace lo que él considera oportuno y yo ahí no puedo estar.
The manager defended him. The contract allowed him to do it. Legally, nobody could touch him. But in the world of football, especially at Real Madrid, where 80,000 souls inside the Santiago Bernabéu treat that royal white shirt as their flesh, blood, and religion, nobody has ever judged things through lifeless clauses written on scraps of paper.
The situation with Kylian Mbappé has gotten a lot worse in the last month. And I'm talking about his relationship with the fans, how he is being perceived by the fans. Kylian Mbappé is a really bright guy. You speak to him, he is eloquent, he is intelligent, he is clearly smart. He's either being advised very, very poorly or taking very, very bad decisions, because the optics on him going on holiday and frolicking with his girlfriend, who happens to be a high-profile Spanish actress, while the team is struggling, are terrible. Anybody should have advised him, you can do this, you're allowed to, but don't. You shouldn't. It looks very, very bad.
Fast forward to Sunday, the decisive El Clasico. Barcelona needed only 1 point to officially crown themselves La Liga champions right inside the Camp Nou. And Real Madrid stepped onto the pitch without Kylian Mbappé. A sudden thigh injury during the final training session ruled him out at the last minute. Minute 8, Marcus Rashford scores. Minute 17, Ferran Torres doubles the lead. The Santiago Bernabéu fell into a silence unlike anything in its history. Not the silence of concentration, but the deathly silence of absolute despair. The Madridistas understood that their season was officially over. And then, in the 36th minute, with the scoreboard showing a humiliating 0-2, with his teammates drowning helplessly, with an entire White Kingdom shattering into pieces, Mbappé posted an Instagram story containing just 2 words, Hala Madrid, alongside a tiny white heart emoji, sent from a luxury sofa in Sardinia.
What the hell is Kylian Mbappé thinking, bro? Real Madrid is down 2-0 at the Camp Nou, and bro posts his Hala Madrid, bro. And look at the score in the top left. It is 2-0. What is this guy Kylian Mbappé thinking, like, genuinely? Why would he even post this? He's not even on the pitch supporting his team, and he wants to post this from home, Hala Madrid? Bro, and they're losing. What the hell, bro? Don't even post at all.
But the storm did not stop there. Mbappé returned to training. He declared himself fully recovered from injury. His name appeared in the squad list for the match against Real Oviedo. But instead of a proud place in the starting lineup, he quietly walked toward the bench. The final whistle blew. He stepped into the mixed zone for the media. And there, in front of dozens of cameras pointed directly at his face, he said something that shook the entire football world.
¿Cuánto estás de dolido ahora mismo? ¿Estás muy dolido?
No, está bien, estoy bien. Estoy muy bien, 100%. No he jugado porque el míster me ha dicho que para eso el cuarto delantero de la plantilla, detrás de Mastantuono, Vini y Gonzalo. Al final acepto y juego el tiempo que tengo al jugar. Y yo pienso que juego bien, he dado una asistencia a Jude y hemos jugado bien, hemos ganado. Es importante ganar en casa y siempre ser positivo.
Me gustaría a mí tener 4 delanteros, pero no. Tengo 4 delanteros y le he dicho semejante frase. No me habrá entendido bien o la verdad es que no sé muy bien qué decirte, porque en ningún momento le puedo decir que es el 4 delantero. No, está claro que si yo no le pongo no puede jugar. Eso está claro, porque soy el entrenador y soy quien decide quién juega y quién no juega. No sé exactamente, he tenido una conversación con él antes del partido y no sé qué ha podido interpretar. Puedo entender perfectamente que Kylian Mbappé hoy no esté contento por no jugar, pero es una decisión basada, como he dicho siempre, por las circunstancias y como he dicho antes, ¿no? creo que no quería asumir por mi parte ningún tipo de riesgo, jugando también el próximo domingo en 3 días. Creo que era lo más lógico, lo más natural y de sentido común.
Pause for a second. Really think about this. That is absolutely not the language of a player showing humility and respect toward his manager's decision. The way a true professional respects his coach is by saying, "I will continue working as hard as possible to fight for a starting spot." That is it. Short, professional, and nobody needs to know anything more. But no, Mbappé chose to broadcast a brutal message to the entire world. His manager was ranking him behind Mastantuono, an 18-year-old kid. Instantly, the pressure of public opinion shifted directly onto Arbeloa. The media narrative was no longer, "What is wrong with Mbappé?" It became, "Is Arbeloa insane for benching one of the best players in the world for an 18-year-old kid?" The entire media landscape flipped upside down in less than 10 seconds. And then he delivered another knockout blow. "I only watch French TV at home. I do not watch Spanish TV." That was the moment Mbappé looked directly at 80,000 Madridistas, at Marca, at Cadena Ser, and at the entire country of Spain, and declared he was only a passing guest. He did not belong to them. His body was in the Bernabéu, but his mind and soul permanently remained in France. Whether accidental or carefully calculated, that sentence became the spark that set the entire royal kingdom ablaze.
He's given up on them. He's got a World Cup to think about with France and the hamstrings and all of that sort of stuff. So Real Madrid are playing second string at the moment, which kind of, sometimes you get that as a player because you think there's a World Cup coming up, I want to be fit for it. But I don't think and it goes back to being on holiday when the Bernabéu was crashing and burning, and he was off sunning himself.
And this is another example of just not reading the room. I just don't understand.
But before you rush to any conclusions, I need you to stop and listen to the rest of the story, because there are brutal truths that people are deliberately trying to bury beneath the surface. Look at the numbers that speak for themselves. In his first 100 matches wearing the great white shirt, Kylian Mbappé scored 85 goals and delivered 10 assists, directly contributing to roughly 33% of the club's total goals during that same period. And if you place those numbers beside Cristiano Ronaldo, the absolute gold standard in the history of Real Madrid, Mbappé is not falling behind at all. In fact, he is matching or even surpassing the Portuguese superstar's scoring pace during his early years at the club. Ask yourself this: if he truly is the cancer, the toxic problem poisoning Real Madrid, then who scored those decisive goals? None of them dare answer that question, simply because the truth is uncomfortable, and it completely disrupts the profitable script the media are desperately trying to sell to you. And it does not stop there. There is still another dark secret that the Spanish media absolutely never want you to mention. 3 managers, Carlo Ancelotti, Xabi Alonso, Álvaro Arbeloa, 3 elite tactical minds, all consecutively failing to solve the same impossible equation. Look directly at the core of it. If one manager fails, the blame belongs to him personally. But if all 3 of the world's top strategists collapse, then this is no longer a footballing issue. This is the systemic breakdown of an entire organization. And yet, Florentino Perez is not the one stepping onto the pitch. Ancelotti was not the one being abused by tens of thousands of supporters. Xabi Alonso already walked away with his head lowered in silence. The only man forced to stand at the front line and absorb the fury and the boos in every single match is none other than Mbappé himself. And here is the ultimate question I want to ask all of you. So, is he the root of the problem, or merely a tragic victim? Here is my most honest answer. Both, at the exact same time. And that is precisely why this entire drama is so complex and so brutal. Mbappé is not a villain, but he is the type of person who does not know how to stop turning himself into the center of every universe. And at Real Madrid, that is completely impossible. This is the club of 15 Champions League trophies, the cathedral of Ronaldo, of Zinedine Zidane, a place with a history greater than any single individual. Mbappé arrived here to write his own legacy, but Real Madrid never needed somebody to rewrite history. They needed people willing to serve the legacy that already existed. And that trap is the core conflict that 3 managers, 1 powerful president, and a contract worth tens of millions of euros have all been completely unable to solve. There are obvious mistakes that belong entirely to Mbappé: the vacation in Sardinia, the provocative Instagram story, the arrogant comments about French television. Those mistakes are real, and the consequences are visible to everyone. But on the other side, there is an upper structure that is rotting and collapsing from within, desperately searching for a name big enough to carry the blame. And unfortunately, the biggest and brightest name in that dressing room happens to be Kylian Mbappé. He is both the source of the crisis and the sacrificial lamb for the entire machine. And somehow, both of those brutal truths coexist within the same human being. Mbappé is entering the age of 27. Ahead of him stands the 2026 World Cup, the biggest stage of his life. The tournament, he himself once admitted, was the ultimate dream above every other trophy. Once this season ends, he can choose to stay and continue the fight, or walk away in search of a new sky. No matter where fate leads him next, the story of Kylian Mbappé is still nowhere near its ending. But there is one thing I can say with absolute certainty. This is the season that defines the name Mbappé, not through dry statistics on the pitch, but through the true nature of the man behind the glow of the goals. And the answer to who he really is, at this very moment, remains a massive unanswered question. For me, for you, and I believe for himself as well. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.